we're going to talk about the difference between a major blues and the minor blues, the chords involved, and the structure of these two different types of blues. So we'll take the major blues to start off with. Right, so we start off with an A7 chord. So I'll be doing my A7 chord like this. So it's like just an A major bar chord with the little finger taken off, because that D string 5th fret is the flat 7th, which creates that dominant 7th sound. So major blues is played with all dominant 7th chords, and the dominant 7th chord, the structure of it is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So we've got our A7 chord, okay, and we've got our D7 chord, then our A7 chord, okay, then we go to an E7, then a D7, back to our A7. So the three chords are A7, D7 and E7, but we've got to understand how they're put together and what order they go in. So let's do a really basic blues to start off with and talk about the structure. So we've got 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, D7 for 2 bars, A7 for 2 bars, E7, D7, A7, E7. So you've got 4 bars of A7, 2 bars of D7, 2 bars of A7. So that's the first 8 bars, okay? The last 4 bars, you've got E7, D7, A7, and then the last bar, E7. So let's talk a little bit about how this works, what's going on here. So this is our home. We're doing this for 4 bars, so it's quite static. Okay, now after 4 bars we move on to the D7. Now this creates a little bit of tension, and it wants to move back home to here. Then we're going to create lots of tension. We go to the E7, resolve it a bit, resolve it back home, move right away from home, and then back to start again. Okay, so that's what's going on here. You've got this home tension release thing going on. Now you can have variations with this, so let's go over a couple of little variations. This chord goes on for quite a long time, all right, so you might say that's a bit boring. So sometimes you'll hear this 1, 2, D7, and then it carries on the same as normal. Okay, so you move into the D7 in bar 2, okay, then back to A7 for 2 bars, and then move into the D7 again as you would do normally in bar 5. All right, so that is one of the most common variations. You could at the end not go to the E7 on the last bar and stay on the A7. Okay, it's not quite as strong though, because you don't get that resolution quite as much, but that's another way to do it. Now the other thing you'll hear is about the 1 chord and the 4 chord and the 5 chord. So let's just explain what that means. So this is the 1 chord, this is the 4 chord, and this is the 5 chord. Okay, so the 1 chord is the home chord. It's built off the root note, the 1. No, whoops, off the 1 here, okay? The 4 chord is built off the 4th note in the A major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So it's called the 4 chord because it's built off the 4th note in the A major scale. The E7 is called the 5 chord because you've guessed it, is built off the 5th note in the A major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So blues is sometimes called a 1-4-5 format. Okay, so that's our structure of our major blues. So when you're playing it, like, you should know when it's going to that 4 chord. I can tell even on chatting, I know it's going to go, and here it goes here. And I know it wants to go back to the A, the 1 chord here. So you should just be able to feel that. That's really, really important. Okay, so let's move on to a minor blues. Minor blues is quite misunderstood and often done wrongly. So let's just talk about it. So we've got A minor. So instead of A7 now, we're in A minor. So it's a straight A minor chord for 4 bars. D minor for 2 bars. A minor for 2 bars. Now this is where people get it wrong. People say it goes to E minor, D minor, A minor, and it follows the same as major blues, but it doesn't. Okay, right? We're not going to go to E minor. We're going to go to E7. Okay. Now the reason we're going to go to E7 is because E minor doesn't want to pull that D here. It has no resolution tendencies. It just kind of sits there. It doesn't make that. It doesn't propel the music forward, the movement forward at all. Okay. Whereas E7, it wants to go back to here. You can hear it wanting to pull. Now the notes in it don't necessarily fit. In fact, one of the notes doesn't necessarily fit. Or it doesn't fit in the A minor scale, but that doesn't matter. Okay, because our ear hears it going back here. Right. Now often what you'll get before this chord, you'll get this one. Okay, so you get an F7 to E7 to A minor. Alright, now the reason you get that is because this chord pulls us to this chord pulls us to this chord. Think of still got the blues for you. Alright, so you can think of that. So that is a minor blues. So let me just play it all the way through. Okay, so that's a minor blues. Again, you've got variations. You could go like we did with the major blues before we move to the 4 chord properly. You could do this. So you might get that sometimes. E7 to D minor to A7. Or you might just get E7, E7, A minor. But you really need that E7 in some way. You don't want the E minor in there. You won't see that very often. So that is a minor blues. So that is the difference between a minor blues and a major blues. Major blues is obviously in a major key, right? And it uses all dominant 7th chords. A minor blues is a minor key, right? It uses minor chords, but the 5 chord needs to be a dominant 7th chord. And often you'll have another chord, a semitone above the 5 chord, which leads you back to the 5 chord. Okay. Now we could talk about soloing over top of these, but that's another subject altogether. So you really want to get familiar with those so that you're able to play them and you can anticipate when the next chord's coming. You just feel it, right? And you do that by listening to this and playing it lots, listening to backing tracks, playing over the top of backing tracks if you like. But really getting a feel for when it's changing from the 1 chord to the 4 to the 5, etc, etc. Also try it in different keys. If we were doing it in a different key, the cool thing about it is, say we're doing it in G, major blues in G. Now we've got these chords, so we were doing it like this, weren't we? Sorry. 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord. So we did exactly the same as we did the A7 blues. But we're just moving everything down 2 frets, right? This is the advantage of guitars go over the piano. You can't do that on a piano. If we're doing it in, let's take something a bit more awkward. Let's do C sharp. The 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord. It's just the same, but just shifted up or shifted down. So that makes it really easy. Same with the minor blues. Okay, have fun.